The Chao Phraya River in Bangkok might not be the longest, widest, or most famous river in the world, but it might just be one of the most culturally important to its home state and city. In this video, I'm going to look at some of the major landmarks on the river, the cultural and religious significance of the river to the Thai people, and look a little bit about how people live and work on the river. So let's start with a bit of background and history of the river. The river is approximately 372 kilometers long, which is about 231 miles, and it begins its journey southwards in the Nakhon Sawan province in northern Thailand, and it ends in the Gulf of Thailand in Samut Prakan province. The river may actually have originally been much longer, originating in the Himalayas, but was cut off by other rivers. The river is distinctly linked with the creation of the Thai capital of Bangkok. In the late 1500s, the former capital of Ayutthaya was overthrown by the Burmese, leaving the heads of the Thai state to flee for their lives. They were forced to head south to the area now known as Thonburi, the western bank of the Chao Phraya, to start their new kingdom afresh. This had the added benefit of moving the capital much closer to the coast, shortening the time trade ships had to spend on the river by as much as a week, which in turn increased trade and helped Bangkok to become one of the most prosperous cities in Southeast Asia. Let's start our journey along the Chao Phraya River with Wat Arun. Wat Arun, also known as the Temple of Dawn, is one of the most iconic temples in all of Thailand. The temple was first founded in the 1650s, but was not completed until nearly 200 years later, and was built to mimic the temples from the fallen capital of Ayutthaya. The temple is named after Aruna, the Hindu god of dawn. The temple is built in a Khmer style, meaning that it has one major tower, or prang, surrounded by four smaller ones. Nowadays, the temple serves as one of the biggest tourist attractions in Bangkok, although there are still some monks that live in the quarters of Wat Arun, and they live here in order to pray, teach, and meditate. And they can also be seen relaxing or working around the temple. At night, the temple lights up, giving one of the most beautiful views on the Chao Phraya River. Now let's zoom out a little bit to take a look at the life on and in the actual river. There are many different kinds of boats that can be seen along the Chao Phraya. Among the most distinct are the famous local longtail boats. Longtail boats come in all different shapes and sizes, but the defining characteristic of the longtail boat is that they use second-hand car or truck engines that are refitted for the boat. And these things can go pretty fast. You might see one of the boat taxis, which operate as a bus service along the river. It's estimated that anywhere between 50 to 100,000 people use this service every day. Tugboats can be seen pulling along some of the giant barges that transport goods along the river. The Chao Phraya River is still used as a means to transport goods and people to the north of the country, with thousands of boats using the river each day. There are many different species of fish that live in the river, and some of them get pretty big. Some of the species include catfish, carp, and snakehead fish. As you travel along the river, you can begin to see the reverence with which the Thais treat the river and the religious significance that they attach to it. There are over 100 different temples on the river in Bangkok alone. We've already seen Wat Arun, which is mostly used as a tourist attraction nowadays, but many more monks live and work on the Chao Phraya River. Lots of the other temples on the river are dedicated for monks to practice their faith. In temples like this one, the monks will have a strictly regimented regime, telling them when to wake up, when to eat, and when to pray and meditate. Most monks will spend many hours of the day in silent meditation, with some even taking days and months of silent vows. There are lots of other religious monuments for people to come and pay homage to on the river. Here is the statue of the giant Naga, which depicts a giant serpent creature protecting the Buddha from a storm. Nagas are Southeast Asian mythological creatures that are said to inhabit rivers. Another famous temple along the river is Wat Chak, a giant golden Buddha statue that also has images of Hindu gods. Nowadays, not a lot of Thai people actually live directly on the river, and in fact, many people have been displaced in order to construct boardwalk areas and skyscrapers. However, if you travel up north on the river, you will come to an island in the middle of the river called Koh Kret. Koh Kret has a population of about 6,000 people, most of which are part of the Thai Mon ethnicity, an ethnic minority within Thailand. The Thai Mon are famous for their pottery, which they produce on the island. There's also a number of schools and a hospital on the island, as well as a number of different temples and Buddhist monuments. If you visit Koh Kret, you should definitely check out the local street food markets on the weekend. So for the final part of the video, I want to tell you how you can best travel along the river. My first recommendation is that you go to Chak's bar, which is just a small shack, but it has great views of the river. And it's much more reasonably priced than a lot of the resorts on the river, and it's probably my favorite bar in the whole of Bangkok. After a beer or two here, you're just a 5-minute walk away from Saton Pier. Here you can either hop on one of the boat taxis, and you'll probably want to be on either the blue flag or the orange flag boats, as they stop at all the main tourist spots, whereas the other colour flags are express boats which might skip the main sites. It's 20 baht for a trip on the orange line and 40 on the blue. Although you can get an all-day pass for around 150 baht if you want to go to numerous places on the river. On the river taxi, you'll get to experience the river firsthand, and it will stop off at Wat Arun. After checking out the temple, you can hop on one of the river crossing boats for just 5 baht to check out some of the other major temples in Bangkok, including the Reclining Buddha, Grand Palace, and Wat Po. A lot of the hotels and restaurants in this side have amazing views of Wat Arun from a distance, which is where I got these shots from. Up the river a little bit are a few more temples and Wang Lang market, which is excellent Thai street food and is slightly off the beaten path for most Western tourists. Alternatively though, you can rent a longtail boat. The longtail boat drivers will offer a number of different options at different prices depending on where you want to go. It will be significantly more expensive than the ferry though. Some of these tours will take you down the canals or klongs as well, which is a whole different side of the city you'll get to see. If you'd like me to do a similar video about how people live on the Bangkok canals, please leave a comment below. If you want to check out the island of Koh Kret, I suggest taking the whole day to do it. It can't really be done in half a day, not without rushing it. To do this, you can either take the orange taxi boat to the end of the line at Non Taburi. This will take over an hour, and you'll be able to see all of the temples that you've seen in this video, plus many more. If time is an issue, you can get a taxi straight to Non Taburi Pier. From here, you'll have to get a longtail boat. Now, these are the speedy ones that you saw earlier in the video, and they're a lot of fun, but man, these things fly. The longtail should take you straight to the pier. Once you're there, make sure to check out Chip Beer, one of the only craft beer bars in all of Bangkok. You can check out my video on chip beer right here. Alternatively, you can check out my other videos from other places in Thailand.